I'm going to try something a bit different today. I'm talking in this video. We're in Leith Harbour. I'm going to do a tour of the Explorer. It's raining today, so the outside bits are going to get done quickly. It's typical Edinburgh weather. It's fine. It's got on the quayside. This is the Edinburgh dock in Leith Harbour. On the backside of nowhere. Fourth port's let us stay here free of charge, which is very good of them. It's a modern research vessel there. Fourth port's on the movie studio over there. So, Explorer. She was built in 1955 by a yard in Aberdeen, whose name escapes me at this moment. She was built as a trawler, a side trawler, but she never worked commercially. She always was a research vessel all the days. She's got labs on board and the holds were turned into storerooms. She's built with a steel riveted reinforced hull and a steam engine in 1955, where shipbuilders were going over to welded hulls and diesel engines. And the reason she got the riveted hull was because she used to spend all her days in northern waters bumping into icebergs. And the steam engine, because it could be run a lot slower than a diesel engine. You could go ahead at half a knot on a steam engine. With the diesel engine, you're doing 3 or 4 knots. That impacted the work she could do, because sometimes she had to test net sizes, and they were that fine that if you went ahead at 4 knots, they get destroyed. So a steam engine at half a knot was what she had. She was the last ship built in her yard with a steam engine, and she's the last surviving steam trawler. Just walk around here. We'll head along the stern a little bit. She's a bit tired, and she needs a lot of work. There are a group of volunteers here throughout the week. There's a core group of volunteers that turn up every Saturday and every Tuesday. It's that noise a lorry goes past. But as you can see, she's very tired and in need of a lot of work and a lot of care. We'll go aboard now and we'll head up the main deck. It was built in 1955 and she worked until 1982, when, due to increased running costs and efficiency, she was retired and sent to the scrapyard. Just a shame. We'll head aboard now. Down the gangway. Oh, my finger in the thingy. There we go. So we had to put these walkways down with chicken wire on, because the deck is that rotten that when it rains it becomes like an ice rink. And it's raining today. So all the deck machinery was steam driven, including this giant winch here. Whoop, there you go, it's very slippery. See, it slipped over. The steam winch would have ran cables forward to these capstans, then out through the A-frames there to haul nets along the side. Steam driven. Probably hasn't moved in 50 years. Well, 40 years maybe. We'll get to that in a minute. So we'll head a wee bit further forward now. We'll go up onto the forecastle deck, the very pointy end of the ship. I'll quickly pause it as I climb the ladder so I'm not waving the camera about in the middle of fresh air. Right, up on the forecastle deck, right at the pointy end of the ship. Can't get any further forward on this deck. This is where the mooring gear is. Have a quick look across the harbour. There's the modern ship. A couple of OSVs. I'm out of breath a little bit, excuse me. So all the deck machinery again is steam driven anchor windlass. And the windlass hasn't been moved in years as well, so we don't move it, because if we drop the anchor we've got no way of picking it up, but it is still here. And more sign of the condition that she's in, the breakwaters rusted right through, and the machinery hasn't moved in a very long time. Flying through these bits because it's cold and wet, so I'll just climb back down the ladder again. When she was retired in 1984, she got sent to a scrapyard, and a guy from the Maritime Museum in Aberdeen went along to look at the ship with the intention of buying the steam engine. He was that impressed with the whole ship that he bought the whole thing, and she got put out into the Cromarty Firth while a permanent berth in Aberdeen Harbour was found for her. She'd spent 10 years in Aberdeen, in the Cromarty Firth. This is one of the sampling winches. There's two aboard, both on the port side. And what happened is scientists had fired a string of pots over the side, set to close at certain depths to take the makeup of the chemical makeup of the sea, salinity, temperature, things like that. And this was, sort of cutting edge research back in the 50s and 60s. We'll see some of the sampling pots in a moment as we go around. After she spent 10 years in the Cromarty Firth, Aberdeen Museum thought that's not viable, so she got sent to the scrapyard for a second time. While she was in the scrapyard the second time, former crew members, friends of crew members, family of crew members, people that had an interest in the ship, found out she was out for scrap again. So they bought her again, and she went back out into the Cromarty Firth. Well, they tried to figure out what was going to happen. She spent a good number of years in the Cromarty Firth again. There's a second sampling winch. While she's in the Cromarty Firth the second time, the lorry comes past very loudly. While she's in the Cromarty Firth the second time, she got involved in a collision with a vessel, a standby vessel called the Boa Eskel, which did all this damage. Bent the bulwarks, destroyed the deck, removed the lifeboat that was up here. She must have been going at some rate of knots. Did a lot of damage. Whoop, it's still very slippery. The Boa Eskel, the ship that ran into us, was insured, so we got a payout from this damage. That allowed the members that had bought the ship from the scrapyard to get their money back. There was enough left over in the kitty, so to speak, to tow her down to Leith, where she is now. And she's been here for about 20 years. So if it weren't for this impact damage, she'd have been left in the Cromarty Firth, and she would have been sank or scrapped, or she'd have been long gone. So this dent saved her. We'll go back inside. We'll go inside finally now where it's dry. But it's rain. There are people working about, so you'll hear noise and you'll see people going to and fro. That's the ship that hit us, the Boa Eskel. I'm just going to pause for a second. That's the ship that hit us, the Boa Eskel. I had to pause because there's water on the screen. Right. Right, into the galley. This is where the cook would have prepared the meals for the crew. 30 people aboard. When she was out of the Cromarty Firth, she was close enough to the land where thieves and vandals would roll out and steal things. Like the brass from this porthole that's been repaired with perspex. It should look like that. But you can see she's still tired. All we're doing at the moment is keeping the wind and the weather out. This is the condition that she was in when she first came into Leith. It's not great. And our wildlife and the weather we're getting in. Some of the equipment here is original, some of it isn't. Jimmy Yorkson, the chef, he's still involved. He comes down occasionally. By all accounts, he was very good at his job. He kept the crew well fed. Galley goods get used occasionally now, but it's only usually for cleaning purposes. Nothing else in here really works. For the microwave, the most important. Well, the kettle's probably more important than that. We'll go back outside now into the galley alleyway. Right, we'll go back here. There's cabins back here. We're getting right to the aft end of the ship now. A couple of cabins here. There's no power in these cabins, so it is rather dark in here, but we're right at the stern end of the ship. We won't venture into these too much. A pair of overalls that belongs to one of our volunteers. It's cold aboard as well at the moment. It's the middle of January, so it's pretty cold. Bit of workshop space, a bit of storage back here, also access into the steering gear room. I'll go down there because it's a sealed compartment, but we will have a quick peek. It's the steering gear room. Oh, this hatch is very heavy. A bit of workshop space. We'll head back forward now. Head back forward. Big wooden door, that was a fridge, used for storage at the moment. And just a bit of sanitary space. There's no working plumbing on the ship, so we've had to install a camping toilet, emergency use only. We'll head back along the starboard corridor now. We'll head into the crew mess. The cabin's down here, but we don't go down. Well, we do go down there, but there's no power down there as well, so I won't take you down there. Into the crew mess. Right, into the crew mess. This is still used by the volunteers. We meet here every morning to have a cup of tea and a sandwich at lunchtime. This room recently got a lot of repairs done. These panels were all replaced, and we gave the room a lick of coat, a lick of paint, a new carpet and new tablecloths. This is probably the warmest room on the ship as well. This is how she looked when she was in the Cromarty Firth. Rather tired and abandoned. Yeah, this is one of the rooms that still serves its original purpose. That is the most important piece of equipment on board. Right, we'll head back out now. I'll just pause again. So we'll head back along this corridor on the starboard side now, heading forward. We're going to go into the noisy room. If it turns out that my voice is drowned out by the noise of the generator, I will add subtitles. The engine room could easily have its own video, but we'll go in. There is a diesel generator running, so it is quite noisy in here. That's the top of the steam engine. I'll just pause as I climb down this ladder. So I'm down the ladder. That's the entranceway. The engine room's accessed by catwalks and ladders. This is the top of the triple expansion steam engine. Look around. There's water dripping. There's more evidence of how tired she is. There's so much machinery in here. You can spend hours wandering around here looking to see what's in here. That's the current modern diesel generator. The two of the originals. I'll just pause as I go down this ladder here, then we'll back in a sec. Right. So these were 80 kilowatt diesel generators. This one's a 6-cylinder. There are three of these are bought. There's two of these, and there's a smaller 24 kilowatt unit on the other side of the ship. This original switch panel. The modern generator does not run through this switch panel, so this switch panel at the moment is completely isolated. There's no power going through this. When we start up the original fitted generators, this becomes live, and it lights up like a Christmas tree, and things like exposed contact knife switches are live at mains voltage. So it could be pretty dangerous down here, and the noise must have been incredible looking at these generators. That's one. We'll head along. This is the top of the boiler. We'll have a look at that in a moment. This is the other generator. Down here, you have to crouch down to get to this part. So the other generator is cabling. So catwalks us down into the boiler room. We'll go down there in a sec. I'll just crouch my way back out of here. First glimpse of the steam engine. Oh, I can stand up now. I'll just pause as we go down this ladder here. Right, bottom of the ladder. There's the noisemaker still going there. That's the back of the boiler. So this is a steam engine, triple expansion steam engine. Hasn't moved in years. There's water dripping down everywhere. It just shows the condition that she's in. Yes, that's my breath, you can see. It's very cold today. It's the middle of January. The only heat on board is in the crew mess with the electric heater. We'll walk past the generator. There it is. We'll go down into the prop tunnel. This is as far aft as you can go on the ship. Beyond that bulkhead is the propeller, after a bit of prop shaft. This is the prop shaft here. When the ship was underway, this would be spinning away wildly. There's a lathe down here as well. That's a thrust block. So all the force that comes from the prop goes into this. This is attached to the ship's keel, as opposed to going through the engine. It destroyed the engine in minutes, but it went through this thrust block. We'll go we'll go this way. We'll go this way. More water on the deck. Have to be careful because there are 70-year-old deck plates. She's tired. Tiptoeing through the tulips. This is the back of the engine, the reversing engine. There is the other 24 kilowatt generator. That one, that deck plate's loose. That one does run and is ran occasionally, but it uses that much fuel that we don't run it normally. We stick to the modern generator because it's more fuel efficient. Head back down. We go back along until we came in. We'll go through down here into the boiler room. So this is the boiler. That's the catwalk where we were a minute ago. That's the switchboard. Look, sideways through here, down here. Oh, it's a little bit quieter up here. So this is the boiler room. It's a triple burner Scotch boiler. She was oil fed, and that's your tank tunnel down there. There are tons of oil still on board, but at the moment it's like treacle, so we can't pump it out, so it stays there. You'd start the boiler on diesel, and then that would pump steam through the fuel tanks to make the fuel more liquid, and then it'd get pumped in and ran on that. There isn't a spare centimetre on any of the bulkheads. Everything has got a piece of machinery or a valve or a pipe or a cable attached to it. You could spend all day in here, and I couldn't do this room justice. One of the engineers would know a lot more than I do. I can arrange a tour with one of the engineers down here, but we'll see how it goes. Right, we'll go back out now. We'll see where we came in. Back out into the main engine room. And up this ladder, I'll pause. Back out into the main alleyway where we were a second. We'll carry on going forward. The rest of the ship's quiet. So I'll come through here. The labs are at this end of the ship. So I mentioned the sample pots at the beginning of the tour. So I mentioned these sample pots earlier on that go over the side of the wind chart there. These were chucked over the side. They were set to close at a set depth, and they'd get temperature, chemical makeup, salinity, and things like that, all those good things. This is one of the engineers taking all his samples, and what would happen is he'd shout out his readings, and there'd be a man sitting in there with a book, and he'd write everything down, and that'd go up to the lab in Tory, which is still there and still referred to this day. After a while, the man with the book was replaced with a computer in this compartment, and it was the first computer to go to sea that wasn't involved with navigation. It was the first research computer at sea, and all the wiring was all for that. They filled this compartment, and the story goes that when it was cold and the computer was running, the guys would come in off the deck and get a heat off this bulkhead because it used to run that warm. It used to be really hot in here. The ducting was added later on for the computer as well. This is one of the labs. We've got pictures. There's the computer. Beast of a thing. Chances are the smartphone that I'm filming this on has more computing power than that. A couple of pictures of the guys at work. No hard hats, no life jackets. No such thing as health and safety back then. We'll go forward into some more of the labs. Oh, it's dark over this end of the ship. That's why I've got the light on. The torch on, excuse me. Into one of the labs. This was a chemical lab. The chemist was working here. At the moment it's used for storage. There's some original shelving, things like that. Under each one of these black bags is an original piece of equipment, navigation equipment, radio equipment. and they're all down here because the bridge at the moment is not watertight. So they're down here to prevent any further damage. I went through here last year and recorded everything, catalogued it all. And it's all been sat here since, which is a shame because some of it's really interesting, including my favourite piece, which is a radar. A Decca radar from 1971. Modern radars have a display on a screen. This one, you'd look down there and get your reading. And we'll cover it up again. This room doesn't get too wet, so it's, you know, it's okay in here. It's a little bit damp, but it's nowhere near as bad as some place on the ship. The ship's 70 years old, so you know, she's a leaky old girl. So this is the fish lab. The deck crew would bring the catch in here, and the scientists would work on it. They'd cut the fish open here, check them for parasites, measure them, weigh them, check for, you know, breeding stock and things like that. These are some pictures from when she was working. That's how they aged the fish. The otolith bone was behind the ear. They cut that out, half it in two, read the rings just like a tree. And this fish was 6 years old when it was caught. Northern waters, it was cold where she used to work. That's out on the deck. And you can see the ice on the rigging there. And the guys at the end of their shift would have the tin attendants. That's a fish catch coming aboard for the scientists. And that's the scientists working on the fish. She also did work for the oil and gas industry. She'd do seabed surveys, see where rigs could be put in, and after the rigs were taken out, she'd go back and see what damage had been done, tell them what they should and shouldn't be doing. Like I said, bumping into iceberg holidays. Well, not really icebergs, but she was bumping into ice, floating ice holidays. Some really good pictures. Again, this room is just used for storage. We show people in here when we give them the tours, but there's not much to see at the moment, unfortunately. Right, let's go. I know where we can go next. We'll go up to the captain's cabin in the bridge. So we'll go back out here into the main corridor. And we'll go up these stairs, warning steps. Warning heeded. So up the stairs we go. I don't know if you can hear the rain, but it is raining outside. Captain's cabin. There's no power up here, so it's quite dark in this part of the ship. This is the captain's cabin, right behind the bridge. And more evidence as to how tired she is. All the windows in here are smashed. We had volunteers in here, middle of last year. They repaired all the ceiling panels because these were all hanging down. There was lots of water ingress that caused lots of damage. We seem to be on top of that for now. That's a mirror. Hi. Captain's cabin. He had the bed. At his desk that's just been restored by one of our volunteers who was a joiner, and he's done a fantastic job. It's a beautiful desk that is. He had a sofa. The captain was also the only man that had his own toilet. He had to share a shower with the rest of the crew, but he had his own toilet. The captain also, he was in charge of the bonds, so once you got offshore out into international waters, you'd buy your cigarettes and your rum and your gin and everything else, tax free. Close that again. Only the captain had access to that. Let's close it the right way around, shall we? There we go. Radio ops cabin through this door here. Again, it's somewhere else that's not really in a great state of repair, so we can't really venture too much further into that, unfortunately. This thing needs a lot of work and a lot of time. A lot of money. We exist entirely on donations. Onto the bridge, the navigation bridge, wheelhouse, pilot house, whatever you want to call it. Looking out over the bow on a very rainy day. Engine order telegraph, not original unfortunately. The original one's long since gone, but it is still a beautiful piece of machinery. Another switchboard. Of course, the captain's or the wheelsman, he'd stand here. You can't see anything when you're at the helm, so there'd be a binnacle here to a compass up onto the Monkey Island, and the wheelsman would get his bearing and just steer from there. You didn't need to see where you're going, you could just follow a number. So that's the original engine order telegraph, long since gone. We don't know where that is. That'll be the captain plotting his course And the wheelsman at the helm there. And another one of the captains at work. And you can see, so that's the radar, and you've got the telegraph. That's one of the compass binnacles. That's the binnacle for, sorry, that's the periscope for looking at the compass on the Monkey Island. Right, do we dare venture outside in this rain? Let's have a quick look. We'll go outside. Ooh, the wind and the water and everything's coming in. Ooh, slippery. Nearly slipped over again. It's very slippery out here. So we'll go along here, walking like a penguin, and the penguin walks on it, slip again. Not going to venture much further than this because it's atrocious out here, the weather is. Monkey Island, boat deck, excuse me. That right there is where the damage is from the collision, and you know, the lifeboat's missing. And that hatch there, where is it? There it is. That's above the main engine. Head back inside. Head back inside where it's dry. I would say warm and dry, but it's not that warm, but it's dry. Dry enough. Ooh. Rain in January? No, I wouldn't believe it. Right, back inside. We'll just shut this door. Keep the riffraff out. Locked. Right, we'll head back down the stairs now. We'll go into some of the accommodation. Oh, some of the accommodation. So we'll go back down the stairs. Creaky stairs. I could be hip, nobody knows. Oh. Put the sign back up so nobody falls up the stairs. There's the line. Right, so we'll go down these stairs, more stairs, down to the crew accommodation. Well, the officers and scientists would have stayed down here. Some very steep stairs. We'll go along there in a moment. So that's the stairs we've just come down. Through here, this was a pantry for the officers' saloon. Whoop, there's a ledge there. And these were the stewards. If you weren't a steward, you were told unceremoniously to get out. And what happened is Jimmy had cooked the food upstairs, and they get brought down here for the officers. That's just refrigerated space and stuff like that. 1950s toaster though, that's very interesting. So the food would get brought down here for the officers, and they'd be through next door in the saloon. So, she also had a telecommunication system aboard, intercom, for the uninitiated. Looks like phones, and it'd have all the different, places they could call up. This doesn't work, it's long since worked. We'll go to the officers' saloon. This is arguably the nicest room on the ship. It's so nice, it's got a key. So let's go in here. We're going to stay in here quickly. We're going to stay in here for a minute. With this, let's put the door in the open position. Oh, there we go. Right, I should have done that before coming down here, but never mind. So this is the officers' saloon. Officers and scientists have come down here. There's a lot of... Is that better? No, not really. Officers and scientists saloon. It's not a 1950s TV, obviously. Some more pictures of when she was in service. That was the guys down here, in the bridge games. And the crew, out on the deck with the winches in the background. And the captain up there, smoking his ciggy. That's the officers and scientists aboard again. It would have been quite a warm and comfortable room. We were the flagship for historical ships back in 2020, during COVID when nobody could come see us. Electric fireplace, everything else in here is original. This was donated to us by a group of fishermen that came down on a visit, as was this one over here. This woman, Irene Lofthouse, she is Explorer Preservation Society. It was her that founded the society and rescued the ship from the scrapyard that second time. She came to see us at the end of, I think it was 22 when she came to see us at the end of. She's in her 80s now and she's not as mobile as she once was, but she came aboard for a cup of tea and it was lovely to see her. That's the certificate for the historic ships. A bit of details on this ship. Alexander Hall, there you go, that was the builder. Told you the name escaped me. That was in 2009. We do take donations. Like I said, we exist on donations. without donations there'd be nothing. We don't get any government funding. There's no income. We don't charge people when we give them tours because we can't. So everything we get is donated, and once the hull insurance has been paid for and once we put diesel in the generator, there's no money left for maintenance, which is why she's the way she is at the moment. We need a cash injection, a massive cash injection. But at the moment, you know, we just exist on donations. A cash injection would see the ship in the dry dock, getting the hull inspected, and you know, we could move forward with the next stages of restoration. But we're just keeping the weather out at the moment. That's all we can do. Right, we'll head back out of here. We'll head along to the officers' accommodation. Just close this door. The other room with a key. So, some general arrangement plans. We are here at the bottom of the staircase. That's the labs there, that's the wheelhouse, captain's cabin, and the crew mess is right along here. There's triple expansion steam engine with the prop, that's the thrust block I mentioned earlier, and the prop shaft goes out the back there. That's the boiler in the boiler room, that's where we're stood, and that is into the tanks there. Fuel tanks all the way along to here. We get to storage, more storage, and that's you. So we'll head along this way just now. Top down view of this deck is, we are stood right here. Well, there's the door. There's a door we just went through with the key. So we're stood here, right here. That's the stairway. That's the pantry. There's storage. There's a toilet and a bath in there. I've never been in that part of the ship, believe it or not. Cabins, and that's the tank plan. And up here, that's the crew mess, and that's the galley. Let's go forward a little bit. Some of the cabins, dark, no power in a lot of these cabins. So we'll have a look around. She was meant to be very comfortable when she was at sea. Massive cabins, utterly massive cabins. Who knew cabins this size on a modern vessel of the same design? And the scientists would stay in here. Equally big cabin. As we get further forward, the cabins will become more and more enclosed. Chief engineer, with more bunks. He gets a decent sized cabin. He has a big support in his cabin, but it's another huge cabin. Each cabin has a sink in it for you to every morning shave. With ashtrays for your cigarettes. When smoking was still allowed. I'll just pause. When smoking was still allowed, sorry. More cabins, scientist office, so you get two cabins in here, smaller cabin in there, and another cabin. There's 2 beds in that one, and they'd share that sink. Oh, keep going forward. You're actually going uphill at the moment because of the shear of the ship, so we're about here now. This is a rigging plan. The rigging and all the rest of it. That's what she looked like when she was brand new. These bulwarks were cut away at some point, and it's just exposed now. So there's a few more cabins in there. They're very similar to the ones we've just seen. And there's more evidence of the state she's in. I'll just pause one sec. So the cabins are much. I have to keep pausing when other members come around because they don't want showing their face on camera. They don't. It's not, it's not good to be pointing cameras in people's faces. Another cabin, very similar to how she was. How the others. Oh Jesus, I'm getting all my words mixed up. Cabins, very similar to other cabins. There we go. Is it so difficult? A couple of model ships. They're not, I think, no, they're not Explorer. Don't know where they came from. There's model ships dotted about all over the place. Someone's head torch there. And another cabin for another one of the engineers. Yeah. Smaller and smaller the cabins get. We're through into this one. This one does have light. There's a big old model in here. That one is us. That was donated sometime in 2001, 2002. So that model's 20 plus years old. Some of the other ships. There's Explorer. There she is. That's how she appeared when she was brand new with the bulwarks there that I originally mentioned, and the aluminium superstructure was painted to look like wood. That's what she looked like when she was brand new. Some other ships that did similar work, Scotia in the 70s, that was probably the one that replaced us. Clippier, 68. Mara, 1958. And the Gold Seeker, 1967. So all research vessels, but Explorer was, the biggest and the only one that was purpose built. These were all repurposed. Other ships that were repurposed. Explorer was purpose built. We'll head back forward now. Just going to pause again. Volunteers walking past. Right, the coast is clear. Let's continue filming. We'll go forward now. On a working trawler, this would be fish holds, but it's a passageway through. That's the hatch up onto the deck. And starboard of that is what would have been another hold, but it is a workshop. And if you're struggling to find one of the engineers, chances are it's in here. So that's a Leith that was donated to us by the Royal Yacht Britannia, rebuilt by a couple of our engineers, and done a really good job. It's a beautiful piece of machinery. It all works. I'm not too clued up on using the Leith, so I won't mess around with it because it's not mine to mess around with. And some of the original equipment. So one of these is the rectifier for the shore power. None of it's been used in 30 plus years, so it's not going to get used anytime soon. It's a fire hazard. On this bulkhead would have been the other hold, the other fish hold, accessed only from the main deck. It's just a storage hold. We'll go through here. Originally when the ship was built, there was no door here. This was a bulkhead. But what that meant was people that were quartered in this part of the ship couldn't get that way for their dinner. They had to go up on deck. And if you're out in a Force 10, you've got to go out on deck to get your dinner. It's a bit sketchy. So a cabin was removed from here, and this access way was put in. And that's another bucket collecting drips. So we'll just go through without kicking that over. It's a bit of a squeeze because it's on a step, and that's on the threshold of a door and all the rest of it. So this would have been a cabin, storeroom in there. Right into the forward part of the ship now. This is where the deck crew would have stayed. Some of the floor is in such a poor state that we just can't go anywhere near it. Again, this comes back to money. And again, the floor's in such a poor state. Come forward. Access down to one of the holds, but because they're enclosed spaces, we don't go down there without ventilating first for 24 hours. We'll go into this cabin, which is cabin number 1. So much smaller than the other cabins, and with a bunk bed, one there, with your medicine cabinet there. The cabin that was removed from back there was put in here. The recreation room was never used by the crew because they had the mess upstairs, so I come down here. So this is the cabin that was displaced from the entryway. Again, very small, but you can get 2 people in here. It's a quarter of the size of the other cabins aboard. Can't get any further forward than this on this deck. These are the hawse pipes for the anchor, down to the anchor locker. Can't get any further forward on this deck. If you're quartered in this deck, in this area, to get to the restroom, to the showers, you go up this very steep ladder. And I'll pause that again as we go up. So, top of that stairway, that's a domestic boiler in there. And you go through here. This is quite an uphill section. The camera doesn't do just how steep it is, but because of the deck shear. So through here, this would have been where the crew had their showers in here. It's not a very comfortable shower place, but it was functional. You come in here for your shower. We'll go back out again. That's those hawse pipes, same as we saw downstairs. That's just used for storing paint at the moment. Paint locker. Further forward, more paint storage, and the toilets. And when you're pushing through swell, right at the bow of the ship, 1 minute you're sitting on a toilet doing your business, next minute you're floating in mid-air. That's why there's handles everywhere. We're right at the pointy end of the ship now. Cannot get any further than that. This is the bosun's store, where all the slings and straps are stored. We'll go back out onto the main deck and then that'll be us. It's another fridge, this one here, with the original 1950s compressor. So we'll go back out onto the main deck where we started. And that's us. Still pouring with rain. Like I said, we exist on donations and it's not looking good at the moment, unfortunately. I'll post links to websites where you can access more information about the ship and book a tour if you're in the Edinburgh area and are interested in seeing more. Well, that's it. Thank you for watching.